the time that was like I was really going through a lot of emotion. And he'd be like, "Oh, you're driving too slow." Like
Ew, ew. You should never wait
wait.
for other
Yeah.
people. Welcome back to Casual Kura. I'm Vaishali.
I'm Richa. Casual Kura is a podcast where we, Napoli American women, share about our life experiences.
Yes. So today we have a lot of things on our agenda, but first we have a special announcement at the end. So make sure you stay tuned because it's gonna be
Yes.
it's gonna be an exciting one.
Yes, we're trying to do something exciting for the next episode. So
Yeah. So before we go and dive deep into this episode and what this episode topic is all about, if you watched our last week's episode, it was about love languages. If you haven't watched it yet, go check it out. Link in bio, etc., etc., etc. But after that episode had finished, and I guess I can give a little rundown of what happened. In that episode, we spoke about our top 5 love languages, and I talked about how physical touch is in my top 2. And after we had recorded that, I got a DM from a boy who had watched our podcast, and he texted me and he was like, "Oh yeah, I get the physical touch thing, but as a guy, I don't want to go on a first date and catch a case." And that to me was like, okay, no one's asking you to catch a case. There are, and as I mentioned this in the previous episode, there's a very wide gap between physical touch that is good and okay and physical touch that is bad and not okay. And I just wanted to leave some space in this episode to confront that and to say that there are ways to engage in that love language that's not harassment.
Yeah.
Like if you're on a first date and with a girl or whatever, like, and let's say you're sitting across the table from her, just be like, "May I hold your hand?" If you're walking side by side, "May I hold your hand?" Like, there are ways. You don't have to be weird about it. Like,
yeah, exactly. And I think you mentioned it very clearly at that time too.
Yeah. But just wanted to put that out there. We love starting conversations, especially when it is what we're talking about on our podcast and like opening a space for you guys to talk about how you guys feel. So just wanted to get that out there first and foremost. But moving on from that, we are ready to talk about what today's podcast is going to focus on. Richa, will you do the honors of introducing the topic?
Yes, so we are talking about change this year. Not this year. I don't know why I said this year, but change in this episode. I feel like it's a very interesting topic. Like, I feel like change is something that's the only thing that's constant.
Yeah.
And we're gonna tap into it. We're gonna talk about it. Yeah.
And as you can see, we have a change of environment right now. So we're just embracing change today in all ways, shapes, and forms. So first and foremost, how do you feel about change, Richa? Like, when you think about change, is it something that's good? Is it something that's bad?
I think it's something that's inevitable. And it's something that's like, it will happen, and I feel like the quicker you accept the fact that the change is happening, and then I think that's how you find your peace. I feel like a lot of, I don't know, struggles or things, like, it happens when we long to things too much, like I don't know, like, when it's good time, we want this good time to last forever, and bad times to end quicker. But like, it's nature and it takes its course, and I think the quicker we know, like, everything is not permanent, it's gonna end, and the sooner we know that, I mean, we intellectually know, but I feel like when we go through stuff, like, it's hard to come, like, it's hard, like, that is hard to come during that time. And I think it's all practice, and all we can do is like be more aware. So
100%.
that's how I feel about change. And I also wanted to mention that this is my personal year number 5, and this is my like screensaver right now. Like change is my theme for the
Okay,
year.
555 angel numbers.
Yeah.
Period. Okay.
Yeah. So do you
We
know
love
about
it.
personal years?
I don't know. Wait, I don't know about personal years. Wait, I thought we were just talking about angel numbers. Like, what is that?
Okay, so basically everybody has like a personal year number, and
Oh.
and I don't know how to calculate it. Like I'll but there's something you like with your date
Mm-hmm.
of birth, and like there's like it's like new part of numerology.
Oh my god, wait, can you send me a link so that
Yes,
I can
I
see
will. I will. So
my
everybody
year?
has like their own like personal year, and it like there's personal one year, first year to like ninth, and
Ah.
then like everybody goes through a phase of
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know
So
about
like
this.
5 is big on like change. So I'm going to like
Oh.
number 5. So
This is
yeah,
perfect
this is
then.
like when
Wait.
this came out, I was like, oh wow, okay, it's meant to be.
I need to learn more about this. This is
Yeah, it's very
interesting.
intriguing. It's
Okay.
part of numerology.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. You learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Well, I think change is I agree with you. I think change is something that is inevitable and you're going to face it in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally think change is good. Like
Good.
I
Yeah.
think that it's something that will transcend you into being a better person. Now,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah. Yeah.
change
Yeah.
that can be bad. Like, like not all change is good, good, good. But I think for the most part, it is good to change and
Yeah.
it is good
Yeah.
to be self aware and understand what periods of your life
Mm-hmm.
where you experience change and how you've changed from that. Just like self reflection, I think, is such an important part of change
Yeah.
because it happens,
Yeah.
I think, change happens so often, and I think it happens more often than we realize. And I think a lot of times people think, you need a drastic event to happen in your life to change, but I think that we as people are changing every
Every
day.
day. Yeah.
And there are just things that happen in your day-to-day life where you discover something new about yourself or like a part of you shifts based on
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
experience
Mm-hmm.
alone.
Yeah. 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 Very true. So
Yeah.
let's move on to like something specific. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Do you want to talk about a moment where you experience change?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think moments in my life where change has been like the
Most
most
impactful or like
yeah.
mhm.
I mean, I feel like every time that I have had to transition into something new, like going to a new school, for example, or like even starting a new job or an internship or whatever, like that, like I've felt it.
Mhm.
But I think if I were to like pinpoint a moment in my life that change was the most prominent, it would
Mhm.
definitely be when I moved away for school. I think that to me was like the most impactful and really shaped me into
Uh-huh.
who I have become because I think, I've lived in New York City for all of
All
my
my
life
life, yeah.
basically. And so I moved to university. I was living on campus. When that happened, I think like there was so much adjustments that needed to be made. And it was just a lot, I think, because it was that period where like I was truly independent. Like I didn't have my parents to ask for advice. Like I had to make friends on my own, like things like that were so
Mhm.
like just shaped me to be different.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think like oh my god, I don't know if she's watching this, but my freshman year roommate, who I've been friends with for years, we met in high school and we happened to go to the same college together. She knows. Like the first few months of living and dorming were so like I don't want to say like I don't want to say bad because I don't think it was bad, but it was just such a different experience and
Mhm.
time in
Mhm.
my life where like I've never felt so lonely.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think that is an example of at the moment the change seems bad, but it made me who I am now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
fighting that
Yeah.
loneliness and like really trying to like step out of my comfort zone and make decisions for myself, really try to understand how to make friends and like everything. And mind you, I was like 14,
Uh-huh.
like
Wow.
I
Such an
was just a
early
girl.
age.
Um it was just so impactful, I think. And then obviously like living alone in general, I think every year I've lived on my own in my life, like not
Mhm.
away from my hometown, away from the people that I grew up with, has resulted in some form of change.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, yeah. How about you? Is there like a pinpoint moment where you're like, this is what
Yeah, I
changed me the
think
most?
I think, like you said, like I think those are the like moments for everybody, like when you're switching from like high school to college and college to the
Yeah.
workforce. Like those are like the moments. And I think the biggest one was like when like came to America, but I already talked about it. Like, but that's also like a
We can revisit.
big change. Um, sure. I mean, like we already talked about it, so I feel like it would be repetitive. Maybe something else happened to something else. I think like m- when I moved to Georgia, I feel like
Oh
that was
yeah.
like um the biggest, because I also was kind of like, so it was like the time of COVID, and I think everybody was going through like this
Yes. Oh my god.
this revelation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and around that time I was already like into, I think, corporate or doing 9 to 5
Mhm.
already. And around that time I lost my job and I moved to Georgia with a friend,
Mhm.
hoping to find something there, but I didn't. But I think that was the time that was like I was really going through a lot of emotion because
Mhm.
I had already graduated college and
Mhm.
did the corporate job or the 9 to 5 that everybody like, that was the, the end goal that
The
everybody like,
norm as
the norm.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, but I was not happy with my life. Like I was looking for job, but inside I was like, do I even want to like go back to
That's so
doing the
real.
same thing? And the answer was like, no, I was not happy with my life,
Mhm.
even if I like got a job. Like, I mean, people are happy with 9 to 5, but I feel like my 9 to 5 experience was like not very
Mhm.
good. Maybe I just didn't end up with like a right company or any something.
Mhm.
So I was like very lost in life at that time. Like I didn't know like where do I want to go. So around that time it was like accepting the fact that I was lost in life.
And
And
that's hard.
yeah, that is hard, but it also is exciting to like now, hey, like this is like world is my oyster, and like chasing my curiosity and
Mm.
exploring, like that I think phase began for me around
Mhm.
that time. um and like lead up to now, I am so happy with what I like. I am like so clear about what I want to do
Yeah.
with my life and the
Yeah.
trajectory. And yeah, I feel like that change
Mhm.
of scenario too, like being
Yeah.
away from family and having this time to think about my life,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah.
approaching it and planning it, designing my life in a better way.
Literally.
Yeah.
No, that's really interesting, and I think that this is the thing about change, I feel like, is like in the moment it can be so heavy
Mm-hmm.
and hard, but when you surpass that
Yes,
period of
yes,
time, you
yes.
realize that it's all good,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's good. That's great. I'm glad that you got to experience that in Georgia. So, when you were going through this tumultuous time,
Mm-hmm.
and whether it's in Georgia or any other point in your life where you experienced change, how did you cope with that? Because it is
um
hard.
yeah, it is hard. I think there's like phases. I feel like, I think whenever you're like in this drastic change, you're in survival mode in the beginning.
You
Like
really
you're
are.
like not really thinking about anything, but thinking about how I survive this. Like how
Yeah.
do I adapt quicker or find like make myself familiar with this place, with the
Yeah.
situation. Like I think you're like very in the survival mode. Um, I think after you're past that phase, then you have like time to think. I feel like
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
reflection comes, and
Mm.
then
That's a good
like
point.
the journaling and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like that's like a two-part phase. I feel like.
Yeah.
What do you how do you cope?
So I actually have a very funny anecdote, and I think that it like reflects well on how things transgressed in any point in my life where change has occurred. So
Mm-hmm.
freshman year, college, the moment that I mentioned before, I went to get a tarot card reading.
Oh,
Okay,
okay,
because
okay,
they
okay,
had like
okay.
tarot card reading, whatever. I went to get my tarot cards read, and the woman who was reading my tarot card, she was like, she pulled some random, like not random, I guess, but like some bad cards,
Uh-huh.
and like they weren't your conventional tarot cards. They were some they were like other. It wasn't like the conventional like the queen or like the dagger or like whatever is normally a tarot
Mm-hmm,
card. It was just
mm-hmm.
like random like cards with images in them. I don't know. Anyways, the first card she pulls out is literally a fire tornado, and she's like, yeah, girl, like this is going to be a really hard time for you. There's going to be a lot of moments where you feel like you're out of control and it's not going to be that great. And then like the last card she pulls is like an image of a moon reflecting on like the ocean. Like I remember it so well.
Uh-huh,
And then
uh-huh.
she was like, but it's okay because at the end you're going to have time to really reflect and spend time with yourself to like indulge in everything that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I feel like every moment that I have had drastic change or like specific moments in my life, that is the trajectory that it goes in. Like change to me, or the most pungent ones that I think about, has been so like emotionally heavy, where it's just a hard time to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like for me coping, it's like you're right. There's that moment where you're like going through it, and like during
Yeah.
that moment, journaling is like a
Yeah.
big thing that I did, at least because I think when change happens, you really just got yourself, girl. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, when you go to bed and you're like sitting with all your emotions in the darkness, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
really just you having to tell yourself, like, you know what, I have to, like, this is just that phase of my life
Mm-hmm.
and I need
Mm-hmm.
to get through it. And I think
Yeah.
journaling for me has helped so much
Yes,
because it allows
same.
you that space and time with yourself to
Mm-hmm.
just like write how you're feeling, write everything down. And also, like, I know we mentioned this in our previous episode, those affirmations and like
Yeah.
telling yourself that
Yeah.
it's going to be okay. um, but I feel like other ways that I've coped is just like finding your community. And like, yes, at the end of the day, when you're ending the day with yourself, you do have to have yourself. You have to be confident and be like, okay, I have to get through this. But in the meantime, like surrounding yourself with people
Yeah,
that are
that is
close, your
very
friends,
important.
that to me, like every moment where I felt that change has been really big and I've noticed it, I always try to like spend as much time with friends and like
Mm-hmm.
people who
Mm-hmm.
support me and can listen to me, and that just makes it a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. It is
Yeah.
very important to have right people around you, especially when you're going through a
Yeah, cuz
big
it's a
change or a
tough
hard
time.
time. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think community in general is so
so so important.
so important, because like I said, I know it sounds kind of contradictory because we're talking about, oh, you got to have yourself, but at the same time you have to have a community, and it's like they are very two different things, but it's in the sense of like you have to be okay understanding that you yourself can get through this,
Mm-hmm.
but you also have people around you who I'm sure love you and care about you that can help you
Yep,
build
yep.
that confidence within
Yeah, yeah,
yourself.
yeah, yeah.
And
Because
also,
that just enforces
yeah.
like the goodness in you, like whatever you're
Yeah.
journaling about and
Yeah.
like the affirmations you're telling yourself, when you have people around you saying the same thing and making you feel that, then it like enforces more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It builds that confidence.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
listen, whatever is in your mind, you manifest into the world,
Yeah,
is what I
exactly.
believe. So
Exactly.
you gotta be really nice to yourself during these moments, these tumultuous times. And yeah, I
Mm-hmm,
think so.
mm-hmm.
But it's hard. It really is.
Do you wanna like since like we are diving into like the change, I wanted to like look at our past and be like, oh, how
Revisiting the
yeah,
past.
like how have you changed in like last 5 years, you would say, as a person?
Oh my god.
I know it's a deep one.
No, this is, yeah, I think, girl, I feel like I've changed a lot within the past 5 years because I think about where was I 5 years ago? I was like, well, like high school almost, like
Uh-huh,
high
uh-huh.
school, like borderline, like going to college. Um, when I was younger and like throughout high school, I guess, I feel like it's easy for me to like not like separate, but like kind of like put my life into like periods of
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
time
yeah,
based
yeah,
on like
yeah.
where I was in school, because like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like school is like it changes you a lot. But when I was young, so like when I was like 13, 14, like high school, like young teens, I was very like shy and closed off, I
Mm-hmm,
think. Like
mm-hmm.
I was very self-conscious about how loud I was or how I walked and like who I surrounded myself with. Like I was very very reserved, and I also had different priorities like in school. when I was young, I was just like grades, 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 grades. Like I need to be a A+ student. Like that's all I cared about. I was very, very like in the books, shy. Like I had like 3 friends, like,
Mm-hmm.
which listen, there's nothing wrong with that, okay?
Yeah,
Um
I'm one of those person too who has like literally one friend.
you know what? It's about quality, not
Yeah.
quantity. um
Exactly.
but I think within the past 5 years, I have grown to be more like not care as much, I think, and
Wow.
not care as much about what other people think, not care as much about like who I am,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
I think I become more confident, which I'm very, very happy about. And, there were definitely like specific moments that have led me here, as I mentioned earlier, but I think that is how I've changed. Um, and yeah, and I think I remember, and it was a very specific moment that made me realize like, oh, I'm not the same. Um, and it was when I was at a restaurant, and I was with one of my like hometown friends,
Mm-hmm.
and we were just talking, whatever. And like with your hometown friends, you've known them for so long, so
Yeah.
they've literally seen you since you were young,
Mm-hmm,
and then
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
to who you are now.
Yeah.
And like my hometown friends, they like are like, "Oh yeah, you've changed." They never say it in a bad way. They're just like, "Oh, Vishali, like you've definitely changed. Like we've noticed. Like you're more comfortable with yourself." And it's like,
Mm-hmm,
"Yay, Slay! We love to see that." But I remember we were at a restaurant, and then I was like, I don't know, like someone said something funny, and I just laughed because it was just funny. And she looks at me, she's like, "Shh, be quiet. Like you're being too loud." And I'm like,
oh wow.
"Whoa." You know what I mean? And it was just like, and it in my head, it was so like not startling. That's not the right word, but I think it was a moment where I was like, "Oh, like I used to be in this friend group." And
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
known her for so
Mm-hmm,
long, and
mm-hmm.
like she's done that before. We've gone out to like dinner, lunch, whatever, and she's always like been more like reserved and quiet. And I used to be that girl, at that restaurant. And if someone was being too loud, I'd be like, "Girl, like we're at a restaurant. Like, can you please keep it down?" But it's like now I'm that person that's like, I just want to laugh. Like
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
funny and it's okay. And like that's just an example of how
Wow.
like a specific moment of time where
I
I'm
know
like,
there's like
okay,
very like unsignificant moments, but it's like so significant to you
yeah,
when
it
it comes,
is.
yeah, the realization.
Because
Wow.
yeah, how about you? How do you think you've changed within the last 5 years?
Um, I feel like I'm more clearer about where I'm heading in my
Yeah,
life. Like that is very prominent. And I feel like my relationship with myself is very in a better place. I mean, it could be better, but it's way better than 5 years ago.
that's
Like, I feel
good.
like I'm very kinder to myself and I'm more forgiving. Um, and yeah, that's where we want to be at. Like, I know, like, this is not perfect, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there like each year. I feel like,
Listen,
yeah.
any step towards progress is still a step
Yeah,
towards
yeah,
progress, and that's good.
yeah. I guess like I'm so glad of that phase that I was lost in, and I don't journal often. Like I
Hmm.
want to, but like I don't do it like daily. But during the times of struggle or where I am lost and when I need clarity, like that's where I go to my
Yeah.
diary to like just blur everything out so that
Yeah.
to figure out, hey, like what's in this brain and what do I want with this life. And I think like going through that journey and exploring through like
Yeah.
I like literally chasing my curiosity. Like that's what I did like for the past 5 years. Like, hey, I
Yeah.
want to do jujitsu. Let's try jujitsu. Hey, I want to travel more. Okay, let's travel more. Cause
That's
before, yeah,
good.
like
That's the
prior
initiative.
to that, like I always said every year, I said, oh, I want to travel more. I want to travel more, and I would like reach out to friends like, hey, do you want to travel? Hey, do you want to travel? And I would always postpone because something is like not
Yeah.
happening. I was like, that year, I was like, even though if I'm alone, I'm going somewhere. Like,
Period.
yeah, like,
I love that.
and I don't know, like the universe helped me. Like at that time, like my childhood friend also wanted to travel, so like that ended up happening. But
Perfect.
my commitment was like, hey, traveling is important for me, and I'm gonna do it at least once a year somewhere. Like that was my commitment
That's
to me. Yeah,
amazing.
to
That's
myself.
good.
Yeah, 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 to myself. Even though if I'm alone, and cause that's what I want. Like, and if I
Yeah.
wait for other people to,
You should
yeah,
never wait
wait,
for other
yeah,
people.
yeah, like,
Yes, I
yeah,
completely agree.
if you guys are in like the lost phase,
Yeah.
like don't I mean it's hard, but be excited of the future that's coming to you, and take this time to just learn about yourself. And yeah, grab that journal and journal all you want, learn about yourself, chase curiosity, chase your hobbies, chase your passion.
Be kind to
Yeah, be
yourself.
kind to yourself, most importantly.
Yeah, I really like that, and I feel like there's this like quote saying where it's like it's never the right time. So you really have to take that initiative and like take the next step, and seriously like don't wait for anyone. Like in like the most like non-selfish way, I feel like, because like sometimes like you have to understand that this is your life. And you, like, let's say you're waiting for your friend to travel, maybe you would have never ended up traveling and having that experience because you were waiting for her. Like, you have to make memories for yourself as well and hold that space for yourself.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, like, what is a regret, you know? And when you think about what a regret is, it's you not doing the thing that you wanted to do. So you just have to go and do it, you know, and stop making excuses.
Exactly. And I feel like your 20s and your earlier, like younger days, are when you do all of that. You explore yourself, like, because later on, like maybe 30 and plus, like 40, you're gonna have a family.
Life happens.
Like,
and life happens, age happens. Like, you listen, you going on a hike when you're 21 in Peru is going to be very different than if you go on a hike when you're 55 in Peru. You know, like, that's just a very specific example, but just to say, like, it's it's a very different experience. So
embrace your youth, embrace your 20s, embrace, explore, and do everything you want to do.
And I also really liked you mentioning journaling, and I think throughout our episodes we've mentioned journaling because we're both very avid journalists.
Yep.
And
I only find my journal during crisis.
Oh, really? That's so interesting.
I mean, I try to, like, it's always in my to-do list to journal, but it only ends up happening maybe 2 or 3 times. I mean, that's good, but
okay. Well, I feel like
I'm pro journal. You have to journal more often.
Yes, I completely
the better.
agree. And I wanted to like take that for a moment because, like, I don't know if you've ever reread your journals, but I do. I wouldn't say I do often, but sometimes when I am lost, I've noticed that I go to my journals because I'm a very, very firm believer that the answer is always within you. Like, any question you have, you're asking that question because you yourself, you know the answer already. And it's so interesting because when I do reread my journals, there are moments like where I felt so lost, so challenged, and at the same time I'm reading my journal, I'm like, girl, you got this. Like, you're writing about how you feel. I'm like, literally, like, affirmations are intertwined within the words that are written on the pages. So it's just like, I don't know, I just wanted to bring that up because I think that, like, you can learn a lot from past versions of yourself. And I am not someone that likes to stick to the past because I feel like, okay, we're chugging along, we're moving forward. You should not be so obsessed with who you once were because you're not that version of yourself anymore. And of course you have to spend as much time with the version of yourself that you are now, but I think that when you do journal, or even like, you don't, you know, like when you think about who you were before, like, think about all the challenges that you had, all the change that you go through, and now you're here. So something, like, you must be doing something right. It makes you
feel better, I feel like.
It's
you
like reassuring.
See the trajectory, like, of how you've changed, and for the good.
Exactly. And speaking of that, so we've talked about the past. How do you want to change? And listen, change is inevitable, and the way you change, I don't know if we can control that. But how do you want to change in the next 5 years?
I think something I really want to keep, like, being the kind to myself. Like, I want to be more kind to myself going up in the future. And I think the next phase of my life, I feel like, because I have explored, and there are things that stuck to me, and like it's speaking to me, and how I want to, like, I feel like next phase of my life would be like more honing those passions, or honing those hobbies, and like sticking to it, and then like growing something out of it. Like, I feel like that is gonna be like my next 5 years kind of looking like.
That's nice.
Like, I think those things would be definitely my, like, design career, my my hobbies. Like, I love badminton, jiu-jitsu. I really want to keep doing that. And I think in hobbies, like, I still want to be in exploring phase. And if something is that sparks me, like I want to go chase that, or take a pottery class, or do like, yeah, like
Okay,
I think
she's
I
multi-talented, multidisciplinary.
yep, like, yeah, always like, I think a little bit of part of exploring would always be there, but I also want to focus on honing things, like growing, because exploring is as good as it is. Like, you have to invest your time in something so that, hey, 5 years later, you're like, okay, I built this. I
Mhm.
like, you have something like that. You have
Like
a,
your
yeah,
legacy.
yeah, like you're, yeah, exactly, something that you're built, because I feel like exploring as it is, like, you're like giving your time, chunks of time to everything, and it,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like kind of divided, and it's
Yeah,
good
okay.
in the phase where you don't know what you're doing,
Yeah.
because that's like your whole energy going into figuring out what you want to do.
Yeah.
But after you've figured out like things, like, I feel like it's very important to stop the exploring phase and hone on things and build, like really build.
Right.
Yeah. So I think, like,
Yeah.
I
Like
feel
almost
like,
find your
yeah,
passion.
find your passion and, like, yeah, do more of
Okay.
it. And traveling is another one, like, that's,
Okay.
yeah, I want to do more of traveling, more of design, entrepreneurships, like my food business.
Period.
And if any other exciting opportunities pop up, like, I'm like, yeah, all in. Yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah, so I
That's
feel like
nice.
that's where I'm heading to
That's
next
good.
5 years. What
Wow.
about
Okay.
you?
I definitely agree with you. I think be kinder to myself, especially when it comes to my career
Hmm,
and like
hmm.
my job, because I feel like who I am to myself outside of my job and my career is very different than who I am to myself when I'm like
Yeah,
at work.
yeah,
So definitely like be kinder to myself. And I just like I think I want to spend more time discovering who I am. So I think in that sense we're similar because I also want to explore things that I've never done
yeah,
before.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I've never
yeah.
done jujitsu. Like maybe that's something that I need to get
Yeah,
into, you know what I
yeah.
mean? Just explore, travel more because I think when you travel, you learn so much and like that in
Yes.
itself, like you being in a new place
Hmm.
allows you to change and open your worldview.
Yes, so
Um
important.
and yeah, I think I want to learn more about myself and really spend time thinking about what I want out of
Hmm,
my life.
hmm.
And passion I think is such a big word and we
It
can dedicate
is.
an entire episode to
Yeah,
that.
yeah, we
um
can.
and try to like unravel what that means to me
Hmm, hmm.
and just I change for the better. Like I want to meet a version of Vashali that is completely confident and completely in love with herself and like all of these things. And yeah,
Wow.
that's it.
Okay, that was it, guys, on change. Oh my God.
Change is
We
good.
poured our heart in
Change is
it.
great.
Yes,
Yeah.
change is good.
So it's that time of the episode
Yep,
where
where
we
we
do
do
our top
top
three.
three.
So, for today's episode, our top three, we're going to be talking about our top three pet peeves.
Yes.
What really gets to us, what really annoys us to the bone, what can we not stand? Richa, you want to go first?
Yes. I think the big one for me is like last minute travel planners. Like, those
Mm,
people who wait until the last moment to book flights or
oh my
book
god, the
hotels. Yeah,
anxiety.
I have gone onto those trips and it's so bad.
Okay.
Like, we don't know where we're sleeping that
Oh
night.
my
Like,
gosh.
oh my, it is so bad. It like gives me now, like, I'm that's like, oh it's so bad, like, because you took a day off from your work, and like, yeah,
Right.
you have this, and then you're going to this special place, but like nothing is planned, and then now you're like
Yeah. So
scrambling
now you're kind of
everywhere
just
to.
roaming.
Yeah, there was this one trip where we went to Florida during a spring break,
Uh-huh.
and there were no hotels at all.
Oh my god. What did you
And
guys
we like
do?
went to a parking lot and slept in a car. I mean, it was memorable, but I,
What? Oh my god. That's okay.
yeah. Yeah, cuz spring break during Florida is crazy,
Mhm.
guys. You have to
I
like book in
believe you.
advance. Everything, like, down to every motel was booked. Like,
Oh
even like
my god.
yeah, that was crazy. But unplanned travelers. I think, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are times like I feel
There's
like
moments where it's okay to be
but
spontaneous.
I feel like there has to be like kind of like an outline of like what we want to do, and then I think like place to sleep is and flights
Oh yeah.
are like you have to like months in advance you have to do that, or else it's not
She's very
yeah,
passionate
it's very
about this.
it's very unsettling. Like I think I'm like to the end of the day I'll be worrying about what I'm gonna do and where I'm gonna be and where I'm gonna sleep.
So
Like
true.
yeah, like so like that's a very big pet peeve of mine.
That's good.
Do you want to go yours?
Okay, you want to take turns? Okay, I can do this. I consistently late people. And oh my gosh. Okay. I feel like listen, we all have our moments in time where, sometimes you're running late. I respect that. I get that. Things happen.
Mm-hmm.
If you are consistently late, and I'm not talking about 5-10 minutes, I'm talking about like 40 minutes upwards to an hour. If you're every single time we hang out, you're that late, it's like you just don't respect me. Like, you don't respect me and you don't respect my time. And I just like, it gets on my nerves because it's like, obviously, everyone has their own schedules. And once again, if you're like 5-10 minutes late, fine. If there's train delays and you're an hour late, fine. But if it's every single time, it's just like I took time to get ready,
Mm-hmm.
do my
Mm-hmm.
makeup, shower,
Yeah.
whatever steps that I need to take to get to where we need to be at this time that we agreed on. And you're going to show up like an hour late
That's
every single time. It's just like, come on.
yeah, this I don't know. It's just not respecting anybody's time. Like not
Yeah.
your time and your time too.
Yeah.
Yep.
But on to the next. What's your
On to
next
the
pet
next.
peeve?
On to the next. This is very annoying when especially when it comes to food and we're splitting bills.
Oh.
I mean, I understand if you're going through a financial situation, like I understand, but when you are very nitty gritty about stuff, like,
Uh-huh.
hey, I had that extra drink, or like, oh, I didn't have that extra drink, so you have to
Oh, so you
pay
have to
for,
pay like the
like,
$5.
when we're having a pizza and you're splitting, oh, I just had 2 slices, so I would, like, like those kind of
Oh my
people.
gosh. Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
mean, you're here to have good time, and for me, it's always like split halfways, and it's
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
when it gets very nitty gritty
yeah.
about, I mean, I understand if you're
Yeah.
financially going through something,
Yeah.
then I understand. Like,
Yeah.
then if not, if you're just that kind of person, then that
Yeah.
like really like, ugh.
Yeah. Or it makes
Yeah.
sense if like, okay, let's say you're going to a restaurant and one person actually orders food and then the other person just wants like a drink, then like
Mhm.
maybe I
Yeah,
understand, like I
yeah,
get it. But a pizza is kind of crazy.
yeah.
It's kind
Yeah.
of crazy. Um
Or I had this like I went to this trip to somewhere, and then there was this time when we ordered pizza in, and then we were like just having pizza and we had a good time.
mhm.
And the next day the person is like texting me and saying like, oh, like you guys just got the pizza, like I didn't have any say on what toppings I got, and doesn't even make sense for me to pay for the food, blah blah blah. And I was
Oh
like,
my
what, are you
gosh.
crazy? Like how, why are we doing this? We're on a trip, we're like
It's
having
the
good time.
vibe.
Why are you like texting me next morning about like,
Yeah.
yeah, for me it's like just a vibe
Mm-mm.
crasher.
Real.
What about your next
My
one?
next one, number 2. Okay. I don't like. Okay, I call them woulda, coulda, shouldas.
Mhm.
And woulda, coulda, shouldas are people that are always talking about what could have happened, what should have happened, what would have happened. And it aggravates me so much. Like for little things, like, oh, I could have taken the train. I should have taken the bus. I would have done that. Like, can you just like be in the present and like be okay with what happened? Because
Mhm.
I think it's just like a moral thing for me. Like the way I walk through life, it's like, okay, if I miss a train or if I'm late, I'm kind of in my head, I'm like, you know what, it's okay.
Uh-huh.
I'm meant to be where I'm meant to be, and we can move past this. It's gonna be fine. But there are people, a lot of people actually, I realized that are always like in this constant state of what I call woulda, coulda, shoulda,
Yeah.
where they're always thinking about like alternative routes that shoulda, woulda, coulda been taken. But
Uh-huh,
it's
uh-huh.
just like it's so exhausting to be around those people, I feel like, because it's just like are you here with me right now, or are you like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah.
can you just be instead
Mm-hmm.
of creating these hypotheticals that haven't even happened. Like, why are you spending brain space on this?
Yeah. I feel like those kind of people are not doers, and they only think about stuff. So they're like, "Oh, I should have done that. I
Right.
should
And it's
have."
just like,
Like,
this,
hey, just do it.
just do it. Just as we were talking about, sometimes you just gotta do it and take the
Yep.
initiative.
Yep.
Yeah. How about you? What's your number?
Number 3. Next would be people who prolong when they are having conversation. Like when they're like telling a story, it's just like way too long. Like they're adding this like little details and like get to the point. Get to the point.
Get to the point.
You're losing. I think I'm ADD a bit, but you're like losing my attention. Like
you're losing her. You're losing her.
Like get to the point. I think it's like just me problem, but I don't know. Some people really like it and find that.
I feel like I do that.
Yeah, no,
I feel like I do that.
No, you do not.
Oh,
I think they're worse people. I have a friend who, like, every time he's telling a story, is like he tells it down to the detail, of what slipper he's wearing at that time. Like, you know. And I feel like, oh, those things are not important. Get to the important part. Yeah, I think that's like my funny pet peeve.
I get it. I mean, I guess my last one, it like coincides with the woulda, coulda, shoulda, but I can't stand is dramatic, but like I have a very hard time getting along with very negative people. Negative in the sense of like, listen, we all have our like ups and downs, but I'm talking about consistently negative, where they see like no good outlook in their life or like in life in general. And listen, if you're going through something, like I completely respect, like I feel like I'll open that space for you, we can talk about it, but like negative, like I can't stay. I'm sorry, like I can't stay around those type of people that are just constantly like, oh, like this is definitely gonna happen, and it's like a bad thing, and it's like, is it gonna happen, or are you, because like if you said it's gonna happen, you're putting that out in the world, and now
it reminds me of this date I went. Oh, guy went. He would we would like be on train, and he would like literally like come to my ear and say something bad about the people. Like, oh, look how she is dressing, look how look how she's sitting. And I drove with this guy, and he's so bad. Like, I would drive, and he'd be like, "Oh, you're driving too slow." Like
ew, that's so gross.
I feel like, and at that time, but coming back and thinking about it now, like I feel if I was with this guy, I think he would constantly be criticizing.
Yeah,
whoever he
that's
sees.
so
like,
draining.
Yeah, it is very draining.
So like negative energy is so draining. I can't be around it. Okay, guys.
Yes.
I think we're at time. But thank you so much for joining us and listening to us talk about change and our personal lives going through it, as well as our top 3 pet peeves. Yes. Hopefully you guys could relate to some of them. But as promised in the beginning, we have a special announcement for actually next week's episode. Or next week's. Yes. So this episode is coming out on the 13th.
Yes.
So yeah, you're watching this. It's probably the 13th. And our next episode, obviously we do bi-weekly episodes, but we're kind of switching it up. And I'm very excited to announce that instead of next week's podcast episode, Richa over here is going to be doing a day in her life vlog. Ooh! So stay tuned for that. I think it's going to be super exciting. Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what you're going to put out.
I am not a vlogger, guys, but I'll try to have fun with it.
No, you're going to have fun with it. So stay tuned for that. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode with us.
Yeah, and stay tuned to my vlog next week. Oh, next episode.
Next following. Bye, guys.
Yes, bye. Thank you.